To discuss, we're joined by Executive Director of Australia Institute, Richard Denniss. Nice to see you this morning, Richard. Look, Jim Chalmers is going to play it safe today, but he needs to balance inflation while providing cost of living relief. How do you see him walking that tightrope?
It certainly is a tightrope, and they really are unusual times. Very high inflation, very low unemployment, high energy prices, and big tax cuts coming down the line, but only for the highest income earners, nothing for low income earners. So I think tonight's budget will see mainly the implementation of the promises they took to the election. The problem for the government and for voters is that the promises they took to the election don't really suit the circumstances they've got now. So I think we'll see a lot more in the May budget next year.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem moving forward, isn't it? Because deficit is less than predicted this year. That's good, but then it blows out over the next 3 years. You've got NDIS, you've got aged care, health, childcare. How are they going to rein that in?
Good question. So the previous government left us on a path to about $1 trillion in debt. We're not there yet. And the government will rightly say, look, we think we'll be able to just steer away from that $1 trillion and stay below it. But with the stage 3 tax cuts coming up, $250 billion worth of tax cuts, that's going to make it very hard to cope with the higher expenses, the NDIS, health, age pensions, all those things that go up with inflation. So I think there'll be enormous pressure on the government before the next election on those stage 3 tax cuts so that they can pivot and aim some support at people earning below $80,000 a year who get nothing or almost nothing out of the stage 3, and away from the big tax cuts for people earning over $180,000 a year that were promised by Scott Morrison.
So, I mean, that debt, which is just sitting just shy of $900 billion at the moment, do you think there is a real commitment at the moment to pay that down? It is one of those things that I feel just getting pushed down the line that our kids and our grandkids are going to get lumped with.
Look, to be clear, Australia's debt is much higher than it was 10 years ago when the coalition came to power, but it's very, very low compared to other developed countries. Much lower, for example, than the debt of the US or the UK or Japan. So it's grown a lot. The government will be under pressure and will want to pay some of it down, but we need to not panic about it, because if they hit the brakes and cut spending hard now, then what we might wind up with is a recession rather than lower debt. So, look, it took a decade to get into this problem. They're going to have to come out of it slowly.
All right, Richard, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your time today.